Yeah, please. Yes, please. She asked me to ask.
Oh, okay.
She has a direct line.
Yeah, direct line.
So we'll be playing Amazing Race.
Okay.
My name is Mary Lukas. My name is Mary Lucas DeWinkler. I'm one of Kate's nieces. We, of course, I've said this to some of you, we always called her Dolly. That's all I've ever known her as, because I guess when she was 1 year old, her dad, my grandpa, thought she looked like a little doll. And if you see some of these photos, she really did. She was so cute. I know her first birthday, I wasn't sure when they actually started, but then I saw on her first birthday cake, Dolly. I don't know, Jim, do you know when?
No.
It's just always been that way, right?
Who knows?
So if I call her Dolly, that's, we're talking about Kate stuff. But I'm so thankful that so many of you came out to honor our wonderful aunt. To us, you know, she's Dolly, but to all of you, she was such a great teacher and a colleague, and we're just loving hearing all these stories from all of you. You know, just we know how funny she is, and we know how funny and wonderful she was, but it's just fun to hear some of the stories from the other side of her life. But so thank you so much for coming. And yeah, but I want my sister Jenny, who is much older than I am, so she has many more stories, because I'm 9 years older than I am, and I'm, you know, a young flower of 52. But she's going to share a couple of stories with her as well. And then if anyone else would like to get up and share any memories or stories, or, you know, a tune or whatever, we welcome you. Please come up, and we want this to be pretty informal, because I'm sure Dolly Kate would like it that way. So.
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you so much for coming. It's been such a weird week because, you know, we've been here for a few days now, and we've gone through every emotion, I think. You know, just the shock and then the loss, and then you know, we're in her house and we're, you know, there's a million little notebooks and her handwriting's everywhere. And so you know, we all live far away. We live in Cleveland, and Chicago, and Texas, and New Hampshire. And so, you know, the best way we kept in touch was a 16-person text group that we would always, and so she was a big part of that, and Jim too. And so we heard from her, you know, all the time. And she was like such an enigma when I was growing up. When I was a little kid, she's 19 years older than me, and so I was in awe of her, and also very kind of intimidated by her. And but she was the one single person I can say showed me, especially, I can only speak for myself now, but like what a woman was capable of, where she was capable of, what she was capable of achieving, of, you know, traveling. She wasn't nervous about having to go with someone else. If she wanted to go, she went by herself. She lived by herself, or, you know, and she made friends along the way. And I was lucky enough to, you know, when she played the flute in Santa Fe Opera, I traveled out there to see her, and we had to drive up this, I had to drive up this rickety, like, dirt road to get up to the house she was renting, and she was watching the turkeys, you know, because she rented from another musician, and, oh, I gotta watch the turkeys, I gotta feed the turkeys while I'm here. That was my one part of the deal, you know. And then, and she just, she was just fearless, and I just love that about her. And but I also, and I tried to copy her handwriting. I don't know if that, I'm sure most of you have seen her gorgeous penmanship, her beautiful handwriting. And so as a kid, I would just try to copy it, and then I took flute because of her, and I don't know, she just, I would stay in her room, and I'd go visit her grandparents, and I would just look at the, you know, the posters, and yeah, it was just an offer. But I don't feel like I really got to know her until I was much older. And then we got a lot of, isn't it true, like she would just pop in, like, and like, oh, she's in England, she's in, you know, she's here, she's there, in Japan, or she's performing here. And then all of a sudden she would be like in Chicago when we were there, like at the same time, we'd be visiting our grandparents, and Dolly was coming, and, or we called her anyway, you know, that Dolly, but, but I know, so as I got older, I started really, like, because she and Jim and my dad, who wanted to be here so much, and if it was his, I think you and Jim and my dad said right off the bat, we want a service in Bloomington. Because that was the family away from our family. That she talked about all of you so much, the neighbors, the friends, friendships for 35 years, Jane, and the neighbors who were there for her every day that we couldn't be. Sorry. Thank you, Janet, Bob, and sorry, this came out of nowhere. So, but as
she's been holding this like all week, and she's like, I can't cry, so we're just gonna work with her here, you know?
Thanks, Mary. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. But I've gotten to know the vulnerable side of her, you know, just the side that she told me a lot of childhood stories, and some of the stuff that made her more human to me, and not just like this icon of achievement. And one of my favorite favorite experiences was when Jim and I was so lucky to be able to go with my dad and Dolly and Jim to Lithuania. And I know the students probably know how much she loved Lithuania, and she was they're 100% Lithuanian, and they were so proud of their heritage. And so I got to go with them, and she and I shared a room for 2 weeks, and every night we go back, and we just talk, and it was so great. And that's when I got to really know the human side of her, and the vulnerable side, and the parts that were, you know, where she was scared, and it did take she had to make choices in her life and figure out what she wanted to do, and she moved away from family to go to England to study, but she did, and she took risks and challenges, but that was when I learned how hard a lot of that was, and who helped her along the way, and it's a lot of names, you know, there's so many names along the way. I love one of my favorite things is when I went to Santa Fe to see her in opera, and then she brought me to a party afterwards, a musicians party, where all the orchestra had a party, and it was a very elite event, and it was such an eye-opening thing. Because, oh my gosh, I would talk about intimidation, you know, but she knew everyone, and she talked to everyone, and she would say, oh, that's the first oboe player, and he, you know, he did this and went this and studied there, and this one is, you know, and she would just kind of point out, and so anyways, but anyway, so I was saying this, I have a mixed feeling about these services, because in one way, I feel closer to her now, because I can talk to her, I just feel her in my heart, and when she's traveling all over, you know, she's home, she's happy, she's been greeted by my grandparents, and she's okay. She's living the lives in the hearts and memories of all of us too. So, anyways, that's if anyone else wants to say anything. And also, I know, can I just say, there are a lot of students have contacted us, like former students, and I've talked to several, and some of them they sent Google forms around to write stories, and so we have some stories that some of the students have, not stories, but memories of their, so we'd like to read a few of those too, if you don't mind, later.
Just a little.
So, okay. Jim?
Yeah, just 1 minute. You can stay.
His little brother.
I'm the baby of the family. No, I just want to thank you everybody for coming for this event, if you want to call it that. And please play upbeat music if you want. There's no problem with that. I just wanted to say there was one story, not a story, but I remember Kate and I went to Berlin just like 6 weeks before the wall began coming down in '89, so that was interesting. We met up with, there was a German woman who was, I think, she might have been a flute instructor, she might have been a piano instructor, but she had lived through World War II there, maybe as a kid. But her thing was that these revolutionaries out here, you know, want to tear down the wall, they just want fresh bananas. That was her thing. So that was one story. And then I remember helping Kate in London. She initially moved into a place in Brixton, which was nothing, you know, fancy. And then she moved to another place, and then finally she moved to a third place there, at least briefly. So it was just interesting. She introduced me to a lot of different people, and it was fun, you know, to see all these people who knew her. And so my last thing, I remember I mentioned to someone else, I was trying to, and I grew up with her in the same flat with our brother and our mother, and everybody's a musician. I was like a quasi-musician. But she, I remember the one tune she played was the Swingin' Shepherd Blues. So I remember, I had to look it up today to see, it was from like 1957, which fits the, you know, the whole time frame. And that's about all. I know, but once again, with Bob and Janet, not only they're the best neighbors on earth, as Jennings.
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, thank you for coming, and it was great to see everybody. We're going to meet people too.
Yeah.
That was it.
I wanted to welcome anyone here who would like to say something before we read, and I think the students, you guys might even just read from the people who came. Would you like to come up here? Okay. I'll-
Hello, my name is Young Ko, and I was at Kate's studio from 2013 to 2014, and it was my great honor to play some of my flute for everyone. And three of her students, Juliana Ito and Lauren Gaynor and Sarah Abrams, kindly shared this Google form to all the students who studied with her to share their fond memories with her and what they're doing now after their graduation. So we've got a couple of answers, and then Juliana kindly allowed me to read this for everyone today. So we're gonna each take turns and then read some of the comments for everyone. So this person is Sophia Halu. She was in her studio from 2006 to 2008. And she was in the United States Army 5 Drum Corps, and now she left. And the flute playing exists in her life in various ways, from international creative pursuits to identity forming influences. So here's favorite memories of her. Kate always believed in me, and she provided steady, open-minded, grounded support and encouragement to pursue my evolving identity as an artist. She acted as a sounding board through my several-month-long process of finding a new flute. When I brought her the trial Bremen I landed on and told her that I finally found a flute with a sound I loved, she corrected me and saying, "That's your authentic voice. You just finally found the flute that accepts it." And yeah, she was an original soul, and the way she moved through the world was an example of artistic authenticity. And it's astounding to think about the legacy she leaves through thousands of students and colleagues across the globe. I'm grateful and proud to be part of that legacy.
Hi, I'm Donna Wilson. I studied with Kate from 1996 until 2000, and then off and on until I went to grad school, where I was fortunate enough to study with her good friend Peter Lloyd in England. One of my best memories, I have several, but at the dress rehearsal of my senior recital, it went great. And we were, kind of talking about the recital and how far I'd come as a student, because when I started, I was not good. And so I asked, why did you choose me? Why am I here? And she said, yeah, your audition was pretty bad. But, but she said that, there was a spark in you that I don't often see in students. And I couldn't say no, I couldn't resist. And I've been forever grateful for her, for her seeing that spark in me, because it forever changed my life. And I am still playing. I'm teaching at Indiana Wesleyan University. I have been able to play with the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra for several years. And I'm still actively playing, mostly in Columbus, Indiana, but just wherever needed. So, I'm just forever grateful for her. Okay, your phone turned. Okay, sorry. Okay. And this is Juliana Ito, who says, I have countless fond memories of working with Professor Kate. She believed in me during a time in my life when I couldn't really see how the future would pan out. I wasn't an exceptional player when I started studying with her. I actually think Professor Kate admitting me to her studio was one of the most pivotal points in my life. But Professor Kate always held me to the highest standards, asking for excellence and treating me with unending kindness. Seeing her in lessons was a bright spot in my week. I always looked forward to chatting and hearing about her cat's antics, there were several, picking her brain about all things flute, and my favorite, listening to Professor Kate play. We had many silly encounters, such as when she pretended to be a 15-year-old during a final exam. I was so impressed with the accuracy of her acting, I couldn't stop laughing. Professor Kate also taught me how to act with the utmost compassion. She walked me through some terribly difficult periods in my life and always treated me with human honesty. This ability and willingness to connect with the people around her as people first and students, colleagues, collaborators second is one of the most important lessons I learned from her. I feel so lucky to have known her and will miss her endlessly. Like so many of her other students, I strive to move through this world with as much spunk, honesty, enjoyment, and creativity as the exceptional, one-of-a-kind Professor Kate.
Hi everyone, I'm June Kim. I was in Professor Kate's studio from 2014 to 2016, getting my master's degree with her. I don't know if I can do a story right now, so I'm just gonna read this. This is from Sarah Abrams, who was in her studio around my time. From fall of 14 to spring of 2018. She currently performs and teaches flute, and she says, Professor Kate was one of the most impactful teachers I've ever had. Since graduating from IU, I've often thought about the things she taught me during the 4 years in her studio, not just in performing and teaching, but in life. From the very beginning, I was struck by her honesty and by the unique way she approached music. She encouraged me to connect my love of visual art with music, which shaped how I perform, how I teach, and how I think as a musician. She helped me see that a life in music could take many forms. During my senior year, she encouraged me to move to a big city and pursue the career I dreamed of after graduating. Her encouragement gave me the confidence to take that leap, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her. Professor Kate went above and beyond for her students. She gave me food allergy-friendly suggestions in Wilmington, brought me airborne when I was sick, and spent hours with me trying flutes. And reaching out to flute makers and vendors sophomore year. She truly looked out for us in every way. I should have prepared. Professor Kate used to always say to stay grounded. She would ask if I could feel the ground. I think about that a lot and think about how she gave the best foundation a musician could have. She was caring, joyful, and deeply devoted to her students. She is so missed. I hope to carry forward what she taught me in my music and in how I teach my own students.
We've got 3 more left.
I don't know if we're gonna make it.
I'll make sure that you can get through. No, I'm kidding. So next one is Alexis Wendling, and she was in Kate Studio from 2016 to 2019. And now she plays in several ensembles and gig in the greater Milwaukee area. So she always pushed me to research lesser known flautists and composers. Fun fact, we found a Johann Baptist Wendling, same last name as her, from the 18th century who played and wrote music for flute. I played one of his compositions on my senior recital, and if she wouldn't have pushed me to search for lesser known composers, I may have never found Wendling's works.
I play in several ensembles and gig with the Milwaukee, in the greater Milwaukee, is that
As a
right?
band director.
Oh, the band director, yes. Right, okay. Here we go. He says, okay. Oh, she was the kindest professor in person I've ever known.
Do we have to read the last one? You do it. Yeah, okay, the last one is,
This is from Robin Meiksens. She was studying with Professor Kate spring of 2015 to 2016. And she says, when I first started with her, she was getting to know me. We talked about what I wanted to do in my musical life. We talked about orchestra and contemporary music, and she pushed me on why I wanted to do both. At the end, she told me, you talk about contemporary music in a way that a lot of people don't, and that is true for orchestra. You know you can be a contemporary specialist. I also really treasure the story of her unicorn-engraved Cooper head joint. Her flute had gotten stolen on a train, and Albert Cooper offered her a head joint that had been returned with a question, how do you feel about unicorns? And I think that's all we can say.
I do have one more from Julie Lindell. Does anybody know? She's a student, it says, one of my favorite things about Professor Kate was that she would always speak her mind, and she didn't sugarcoat anything. Her candidness often made me laugh, and I really appreciated her honesty. She's one of the biggest reasons that I chose IU. I felt that Professor Kate was someone that would simultaneously push me as a musician and care for me as a person, and she did just that. Professor Kate was always unapologetically herself, and I strive to be the same way. Professor Kate was always strongly opinionated. Sometimes she and I would clash a little bit, like when she was concerned about me taking secondary lessons on oboe. But, and I insisted that the lessons were beneficial for my music ed career. Like I told you yesterday, she talked to me, her distaste for my, and you will know, M-U-R-A-M-A-T-S-U, kind of flute.
Uramatsu.
Thank you. I know I couldn't pronounce that. And her insistence that I needed a better instrument might partially be the cause of me being in the Air Force today, which I thought was interesting. She explains, when I graduated from IU, my parents gave me the choice between a new flute head joint, as per Professor Kate's advice, or some money towards flying lessons. I picked the flying lessons. Sorry, Professor Kate. Got bit by the dog, and here I am learning to fly for the Air Force. But I miss my job teaching music and all of my fellow students, and I play flute every day as a study break and a way to relax. And she sent me a couple pictures of her with below is a photo I sent to Professor Kate back in March of me and Tori. When we unexpectedly ran into each other here in Enid, Oklahoma. I unfortunately don't have any pictures with Professor Kate here on my computer, but I thought you might like to see two of her students together nearly a decade after we met in Professor Kate's class. I wish I had saved her response, but it was something along the lines of, look at you two beauties, one flying airplanes and the other wrangling orchestras. Another classic Professor Kate response that made me laugh. Does anyone else want to speak? There's no pressure at all, you know. Jane.
I'm Jane, and I'm so grateful to have Kate as a friend. Somebody asked me if I had any Kate stories, and I said we played a lot of games. We played a lot of jigsaw puzzles. But the thing was, we talked. And I was able to talk to her in a way that, I don't know who else. And I'm so grateful for that. And she was also my maid of honor. 15 years ago.
And Jane was the one that when Kate came to IU and didn't have a place to stay, you opened your home to her, right? And so that
I'm
was
so glad.
I know. And then you're friends for 35 years?
Yes.
Is that right? So that was a great beginning. Again, no pressure.
Hi, I'm Janet. I hope you can hear me. My husband Bob and I live a couple of doors down from Kate. And we first became acquainted with Kate because our mailboxes were together and we shared the same lane. And as she came in and out of the driveway, we would be around and have chairs in the front yard. So we just got acquainted as friendly as she always was. Of course, we would sit and chat for quite a while. And we've been neighbors about 30 years. She would talk about having a home in London, going to all these symphonies and playing with different symphonies and all of her travelings. But I didn't really realize until much later what an icon she was and how precious she was to all of her students and how all of her students were precious to her. And she would talk about all of you and her pride that she took in the success of all of her students. But she was so humble. And about 6 years ago, she had a stroke and she called us and we went to the house and made arrangements with the EMTs and so forth to get her to the hospital and spent quite a bit of time at the hospital with her and that kind of thing and made sure she got what she needed. But I didn't realize what a wonderful, what a precious gift she's been to all of us, as far as musical, as well as her personality and her caring and kindness through the years until that time. And I went home and I said, you know, I really don't know much about Kate except just what she tells me, and she's so modest. So we looked her up on Google and I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, we have a treasure just in our neighborhood, and I just wanted to share that with you who have known her from a different way. She was our great neighbor. We were able to help her out whenever she needed on various things, but mostly we were blessed with her friendship and kindness.
I know there are a lot of several students here, but without flutes. So I don't know if anyone. I don't know. It might be like unheard of that you ever borrow someone else's flute. And then we have Kate's flute up here. But I just, I'm not a musician, so I don't know what the protocol is there. But if you have any, would you be able to play one more song, maybe just to? And then we have refreshments in a reception little area over there. We try to make it as tasteful as possible for Kate. We have wine and we have some chocolate covered strawberries. And I just also want to point out Tom has been an amazing friend to her. Tom, we've heard your name for years and years, and I know you're her colleague, and you two I don't want to say random flute department because there might be more professors than I know, but you two were amazing together. What a team.
And when we were looking through a lot of her letters and stuff, we just saw this beautiful little card after she had her stroke from Tom, and just, what do you need, anything, and just how much, just so kind, and he's been so kind to us since we've been here and talking with Michael, Jim, and Jenny, and everybody, so we really appreciate you. So, I know.
And she talked a lot about his son also, right?
Yeah, Michael helped him, Melt and helped her a lot, it sounds like, so thank you to everybody.
I'm gonna play the Kate Sue by Foray, again, the one that we played earlier. Sue.
Sure. Thank you again all for coming, and really it means so much to us, but I'm sure to each other too, to see. So thank you so much, and may she be bringing music to a new place and playing her heart out and eternally happy in her. So God bless her, and thank you again. Please enjoy something to eat. We would love for it to not have to bring anything back. There's just 3 of us. We're traveling. So thank you. And thank you so much for playing. Thank you very, very much. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Good.